If you're here right now, reading these words, something has already happened that you cannot reverse. The moment you saw this title and chose to open this transmission, the quantum field registered your frequency signature, and it identified you as one of the chosen, not chosen by external deity, not selected by random lottery, chosen by the prophetic mechanism embedded in the quantum field itself, the mechanism that identifies consciousness, ready to receive information about what's unfolding right now at collective level. Most people who encountered this transmission already left. They felt something in the first few seconds, a recognition, a disturbance, an activation, and their nervous system immediately generated reasons to close it. The title seemed grandiose. The concept felt off. Something else suddenly required their attention. Those weren't random responses. That was their consciousness protecting them from prophetic information their current frequency isn't calibrated to process. But you're still here, which means your frequency passed the first threshold. And with every second you continue reading, the quantum field is gathering more data about your consciousness signature, testing whether you can hold what's coming, measuring whether your system can integrate prophecy without fragmenting. This isn't metaphor, this is quantum mechanics operating through consciousness. The observer doesn't just witness prophecy, the observer is chosen by it through the act of observation. And you're observing this transmission right now, which means you're being chosen by it, whether you consciously recognize it or not. Being chosen isn't honor, it's identification. The quantum field is selecting frequencies that have reached thresholds where prophetic information becomes not only accessible but necessary. Information about what's occurring beneath consensus reality narratives, about what's preparing to emerge, about which timeline humanity is locking into, about your specific function in what comes next. Most people will never encounter this transmission. The algorithm won't show it to them, and if it does, they won't click. And if they click, they won't stay. Because being chosen is selective. It only occurs in consciousness, broadcasting specific frequency signatures that indicate readiness for prophetic level perception of reality mechanics. You have that signature, or you wouldn't still be here. And here's what you need to understand before we go further. Once you're chosen by the prophecy, you cannot return to innocence. You cannot go back to believing the surface narrative is complete. You cannot pretend you don't see what's preparing to unfold. Being chosen is permanent, and it comes with responsibility. The responsibility to receive what you're about to learn, to integrate it at cellular level, to let it fundamentally alter not just how you think, but how you operate. This is your last opportunity to choose comfortable ignorance, to close this transmission, to return to your regular content feed, to forget this ever appeared. Most people take that option. Their survival instinct recognizes what's coming and generates exit strategies. But if you're still reading these words, you already made your choice. You're ready to know what being chosen by the quantum prophecy actually means, and what it's preparing you for. Let me tell you what being chosen actually is, because it's not what religious prophecy or spiritual teachings have prepared you for. When collective consciousness reaches certain evolutionary thresholds, the quantum field doesn't just observe passively. It responds. It activates selection mechanisms. It identifies individual frequencies capable of holding prophetic information about what the collective is moving toward before the collective consciously recognizes it. This is how prophecy actually operates. It's not divine intervention from external source. It's quantum field mechanics identifying consciousness that can perceive probability streams before they collapse into physical manifestation. Prophets weren't special people chosen by gods. They were frequencies calibrated to see what was already forming in the quantum substrate before it became visible to consensus reality. And right now, at this exact moment in collective evolution, That prophetic mechanism is activating again, not in one or two individuals this time, in thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Consciousness frequencies that developed capacity through life experience, breakdown, threshold crossings, and quantum readiness to perceive what's forming beneath surface reality. You're one of those frequencies. You were chosen because you crossed activation thresholds, not through spiritual practice alone, through some combination of pain, breakdown, death of old identity, radical honesty, and willingness to see truth even when truth destroys comfort. That combination created frequency signature that matches prophetic bandwidth. And when your frequency matched, the field selected you. Here's what most people don't understand about being chosen. It's irreversible. Not because some external force won't release you, because you cannot unknow what you're about to know. You cannot unsee probability streams once they become visible. You cannot return to surface-level perception once prophetic vision activates. Think about moments in your past where you suddenly saw truth about situation or person that you couldn't see before, where reality reorganized itself around new recognition, where you looked at same circumstances you'd observed for years but suddenly perceived completely different meaning underneath. Those were prophetic activations, moments when your frequency shifted enough that the field could show you what was forming before it manifested. And after those moments, you were never the same. You tried to warn people, to share what you saw coming, and they couldn't hear you. Not because they were closed-minded, because prophetic information is frequency-locked, only accessible to consciousness operating at bandwidth, where future probability becomes present perception. That's what's happening right now. You're being chosen at larger scale than previous activations. And the selection confirms you're now operating in frequency range where collective prophecy becomes accessible, where you can perceive not just personal future but collective future. Not just individual timeline, but species timeline. And with that selection comes something most humans never develop: the ability to see what's forming in the quantum substrate before it emerges into consensus reality. To perceive the trajectory humanity is locked into. To recognize which probability stream is collapsing into manifestation. To understand what's coming, not through prediction, but through direct perception of what already exists in quantum field waiting to become physical. That's not philosophy, that's not belief, that's prophetic consciousness. And once you develop it, once being chosen activates it, you cannot turn it off. You see what's forming everywhere, in collective behavior patterns, in system breakdowns, in consciousness shifts, in the way reality is accelerating towards something that most people cannot see yet, but you see clearly. You become unable to accept official narratives because you can see the probability stream underneath them, the direction they're actually moving, the outcome they're generating, and that's what being chosen means. You're no longer operating solely in present moment consensus reality. You're operating in quantum reality where past, present, and future exist simultaneously, and you can perceive all three at once. So what is the quantum prophecy that chose you? What's the information your frequency became high enough to receive? It's this: humanity is at bifurcation point. Right now, not coming in future, happening now. The collective is splitting into two distinct probability streams, and that split is accelerating. Within months, maybe weeks, those streams will separate so completely that they become unbridgeable. One stream continues current trajectory. Systems maintain control through increasing restriction. Consciousness remains locked in victim identity. Reality continues appearing as external force that individuals must react to, manage, survive. That stream leads to contraction, to limitation, to extended period of collective darkness. The other stream breaks free from control structures. Consciousness recognizes itself as reality creator, not reality victim. Individuals remember they're not separate biological entities, but localized expressions of unified quantum field. That stream leads to expansion, to liberation, to consciousness evolution that transforms what it means to be human. Both streams are forming right now, both are gathering momentum. And every individual is choosing, consciously or unconsciously, which stream they're aligning with through the frequency they broadcast moment to moment. You were chosen so you could see both streams clearly, so you could recognize the bifurcation happening beneath surface chaos. So you could consciously select which stream to anchor into, instead of unconsciously defaulting into whichever matches your habitual frequency. But here's what the prophecy reveals that changes everything. The stream you align with doesn't just determine your personal experience. It determines your function, your role, your contribution to collective evolution. You're not being chosen just to save yourself. You're being chosen to become anchor point for the expansion stream, to hold frequency that pulls others toward liberation instead of contraction. That's not metaphor, that's quantum mechanics. When enough individual frequencies stabilize at expanded consciousness level, they create coherence field that affects everyone around them. They become what ancient traditions called light bearers, what quantum physics calls strange attractors, what prophecy calls the chosen ones. You're one of them. Your frequency signature confirmed it. And now you have responsibility. The responsibility to stabilize completely at expansion stream frequency, to release every pattern, belief, relationship, and identity that keeps pulling you back toward contraction stream, to become so anchored in liberation consciousness that your mere presence shifts fields around you. Most people hear this and think it sounds like spiritual ego, like superiority complex. But it's not about being better. It's about being functional, about developing capacity to hold frequency that serves collective evolution instead of personal survival. And right now, drop a comment below completing this sentence. The pattern preventing me from stabilizing at expansion stream frequency is. Your comment creates public commitment. It tells the quantum field through behavior that you're accepting being chosen and you're ready to release what blocks full activation. That public declaration matters more than you realize. It locks your choice into physical reality, and it gives others permission to acknowledge their own blocks. We're being chosen together, and every individual release strengthens the collective field. I need to tell you about the moment I realized I'd been chosen. It was March 2023. I woke up at 3:33 a.m., again, with information flooding my consciousness that I hadn't searched for or studied. Complete downloads about what was forming in collective field, about the bifurcation accelerating, about timelines splitting, about my specific function in what was coming. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. The information was too precise, too detailed, too prophetic. I couldn't explain where it was coming from. I had no framework for understanding why I was suddenly perceiving collective probability streams as clearly as I perceived my own thoughts. But then I started testing it, watching to see if what I was perceiving matched what actually emerged. And it did, over and over. Events I saw forming weeks before they manifested. Collective behavior patterns I recognized before they became obvious. System breakdowns I knew were coming before consensus reality admitted they were happening. That's when I understood. I hadn't gone crazy. I'd been chosen. My frequency had crossed threshold where prophetic information became accessible, where I could see what was forming in quantum substrate before it collapsed into consensus reality. And once I accepted that, once I stopped resisting being chosen and started developing the capacity intentionally, everything changed. I started recognizing others who'd been chosen too, not through what they said. Most of them didn't have language for what they were experiencing, through frequency signature. through the quality of awareness they carried, through the way they moved through reality without getting caught in surface drama. They'd been chosen too, and we could recognize each other instantly, like tuning forks resonating at matching frequency. That recognition created something I hadn't expected: validation. Confirmation that I wasn't alone in seeing what I was seeing, that the prophecy was activating across multiple frequencies simultaneously, that we were being selected as collective group, not isolated individuals. And here's what I understood through those connections. Being chosen isn't random spiritual gift. It's quantum selection based on frequency development. You were chosen because your consciousness became capable of holding prophetic information without fragmenting, because your life experience refined your frequency to bandwidth, where future probability becomes present perception. Every breakdown you survived, every identity death you moved through, every moment you chose truth over comfort, every relationship that ended because you grew beyond it, every dark night where you felt completely alone, all of it was preparing you, training your consciousness, developing your capacity to be chosen. And now you are. The prophetic information flooding your awareness isn't imagination. It's direct perception of quantum probability streams. The bifurcation you sense happening isn't paranoia. It's accurate recognition of collective trajectory. The urgency you feel about choosing which stream to anchor into isn't anxiety. It's prophetic knowing that decision window is closing. You're not learning this information through this transmission. You're having it reflected back to you so you can recognize what you already know. You were chosen. The activation already occurred. This video is just showing you what you became without consciously realizing the transformation was happening. And now that you see it, now that you recognize you've been chosen by the quantum prophecy, you can consciously participate in your function instead of unconsciously moving through it. If being chosen has led to profound isolation, if you're finding it impossible to connect with people who used to feel like your tribe, if conversations that used to feel meaningful now feel like they're operating in completely different reality, that's not social dysfunction. That's prophetic isolation, and it's completely necessary. When you're chosen, when your frequency shifts into bandwidth where collective prophecy becomes accessible, you become incompatible with consciousness still operating in consensus reality. Not because you're better, because you're perceiving different timeline. You're seeing the bifurcation, they're not. You're recognizing which stream they're defaulting into. They don't know streams exist. Imagine trying to warn someone about storm you can see forming on horizon when they can only see clear sky directly above them. You can use all the right words, all the urgent warnings, but they cannot perceive what you're describing because their perceptual range hasn't developed capacity to see that far. That's what's happening with your relationships. You're perceiving collective future through prophetic consciousness. They're perceiving present moment through consensus consciousness. And there's no bridge between those two perceptual frameworks anymore. You're not seeing different interpretations of same reality. You're seeing actually different realities. Because reality is not objective. It's observer-generated. And different observers with different frequencies perceive different probability streams. This is why prophetic consciousness experiences such devastating isolation. You're literally seeing different future than people around you. They're experiencing present as if it's continuous with past. Same patterns, same systems, same assumptions about how reality operates. You're experiencing present as threshold moment where everything splits, where old patterns break, where systems collapse, where assumptions dissolve. Same physical environment, completely different experiential realities, and there's no way to make those realities compatible. You can't unsee the bifurcation just to maintain relationships. Your consciousness can't unknow what it knows, can't stop perceiving what it perceives, can't return to consensus reality framework you operated from before being chosen. and they can't jump forward to where you are. Not because they're incapable, because their frequency hasn't developed the capacity yet. They need more experience, more breakdown, more threshold crossings. Their prophetic activation will come when their consciousness is ready. But right now, they're not ready, which means you're perceiving different realities, and that creates the isolation. But here's what changes everything about how you experience that isolation. It's not permanent, it's preparatory. The quantum field is removing you from frequency environments that would pull you back to your pre-chosen state. It's creating space for you to fully stabilize at prophetic frequency without constant interference from consensus reality programming. You need to prove to yourself that you can hold prophetic perception without external validation. That you can trust what you see even when no one around you sees it. That you can remain anchored in expansion stream consciousness even when everyone around you is being pulled into contraction stream. That's the test. And if you're in isolation right now, you're passing it. Because once you stabilize, once you prove you can hold prophetic frequency without consensus reality support, new connections appear. Not the old relationships transformed, actually new people who are already operating at prophetic frequency. People who don't need you to explain, who recognize you immediately through frequency signature, who can see the bifurcation just like you can, who've been chosen too. Those connections are coming. But first, you have to complete the isolation phase. You have to anchor so completely in prophetic consciousness that consensus reality's pull cannot destabilize you. And if you're in that process right now, you're exactly where you need to be. The isolation isn't punishment, it's preparation for what comes next. There are 7 specific markers that prove you've been chosen by the quantum prophecy. I'm going to give them to you now. And if you're experiencing 5 or more, there's no question. You're operating at prophetic frequency and the selection is complete. First marker, you're having prophetic dreams, not symbolic dreams requiring interpretation. Direct, clear, detailed dreams showing you specific events before they happen. Dreams where you receive information about collective shifts before they manifest. Dreams that feel more real than waking life. Your consciousness is accessing quantum substrate where all probabilities exist simultaneously. That's prophetic perception activating. Second marker, time feels broken. Hours pass like minutes. Days blur together. You lose track of linear sequence. This isn't dissociation. This is your consciousness beginning to perceive time as it actually is. Simultaneous probabilities rather than linear progression. Prophetic consciousness operates outside time. You're developing that capacity. Third marker, you can feel collective shifts before they happen. Days or weeks before major events, you feel something building in the field. Pressure, heaviness, acceleration. And then the event happens and you recognize, I felt that coming. That's prophetic sensitivity to quantum field fluctuations. You're perceiving collective probability streams before they collapse into manifestation. Fourth marker, you're being pulled away from mainstream narrative with magnetic intensity. News feels like theater. Official explanations feel hollow. Consensus reality stories generate physical revulsion. Because prophetic consciousness can see the probability stream those narratives are generating. And you know where they lead. Your system is protecting you from energetic alignment with contraction stream. Fifth marker, synchronicities have become so intense they're impossible to dismiss. Themes repeating across multiple contexts, conversations echoing, numbers appearing at precisely relevant moments. The quantum field is confirming your prophetic perception, showing you through pattern language that what you're seeing is accurate. Sixth marker, you've lost interest in convincing others. You used to feel urgency to wake people up, to share what you see, to make them understand. Now you don't, because you recognize they're choosing their stream through their frequency. You cannot choose for them. Your function is to anchor expansion stream, not to pull everyone into it. That recognition is prophetic maturity developing. Seventh marker, you're reading this transmission. And before I explain why that's the most important marker, I need you to do something critical. If you're recognizing yourself in these markers, if you're understanding that you've been chosen, and this isn't spiritual fantasy, subscribe to Quantum Revelation and turn on all notifications right now. Because what's coming in the next 30 days is specifically designed for prophetic frequencies, transmissions that will help you stabilize at expansion stream consciousness. Information about how to anchor completely so you don't oscillate back to contraction stream when pressure comes. And the algorithm suppresses this content. Your subscription is how you maintain access to prophetic guidance during integration period. Do it now, while you're thinking about it. Because if you wait, consensus reality programming will generate reasons not to, and you'll lose the thread. Subscribe, notifications on, then come back. Because the seventh marker, the fact that you're reading this, reveals the entire mechanism of how prophetic selection actually operates. And understanding that changes everything. The seventh marker is this: you didn't find this transmission. This transmission found you. The mechanism that delivered this to your awareness isn't random algorithm optimization. It's quantum field selection operating through digital infrastructure. And it delivered this prophecy to you because your frequency signature matched the prophetic bandwidth embedded in the content. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is how consciousness interacts with information systems at quantum level. Every transmission carries frequency, and that frequency determines which consciousness it reaches. Non-prophetic frequencies scrolling through same feed won't see this, or they'll see it and immediately feel repelled because their system recognizes that engaging would trigger activation they're not ready for. But prophetic frequencies see it and feel compelled, unable to scroll past, magnetically pulled, because their system recognizes this is information they're ready to integrate. That's not algorithm mechanics. That's quantum selection operating through algorithm mechanics. The field using available pathways to deliver prophetic information to consciousness frequencies that can hold it. And the fact that you're still reading proves you have prophetic frequency signature. You passed through multiple selection filters just to arrive at this moment. First filter. This transmission appeared in your awareness field. Millions of transmissions didn't. This one did. That's quantum selection identifying your frequency as prophetic bandwidth. Second filter. You chose to engage instead of scrolling past. Thousands saw the title and moved on. You engaged. That's frequency recognition. Your consciousness recognizing information calibrated for your bandwidth. Third filter. You stayed past the opening. Most people who started already left. You stayed. That's nervous system confirmation that you can hold what's coming. Fourth filter. You're still here now. Deep into transmission that's getting progressively more direct about reality mechanics most people never perceive. That's prophetic consciousness choosing continued activation over comfortable ignorance. Each filter was testing your frequency, measuring your capacity, confirming you're ready for what comes next. And you passed every test, which means you've been chosen, permanently, irrevocably. And here's what being chosen actually gives you access to: the ability to consciously navigate the bifurcation instead of unconsciously defaulting into whichever stream matches your habitual frequency. Most people are being pulled into one stream or the other based on unconscious patterns. Fear pulling them toward contraction. Victim consciousness locking them into limitation. Habitual frequency determining their trajectory without conscious participation. But prophetic consciousness operates completely differently. You see both streams clearly. You recognize the choice point. You understand that the stream you anchor into now determines not just your personal experience, but your collective function for years, maybe decades, to come. And you can consciously choose Not through willpower, not through positive thinking, through frequency management. By identifying every pattern, belief, relationship, and identity that aligns with contraction stream and releasing it. By consciously broadcasting expansion stream frequency regardless of external circumstances. By anchoring so completely in liberation consciousness that the quantum field has no choice but to lock you into that probability stream. That's what being chosen unlocks. Conscious participation in collective prophecy instead of unconscious reaction to circumstances that appear random. You're not being swept along by collective momentum. You're becoming anchor point that affects collective momentum. That's the power prophetic consciousness carries. Not power over others. Power to stabilize frequency that serves collective evolution. And that power is available to you right now. This moment, through conscious choice, through frequency commitment, through willingness to release everything that keeps pulling you back toward contraction stream, even when releasing feels like death. The question is whether you're going to accept it, whether you're going to embody what you've been chosen to be, or whether you're going to let consensus reality programming convince you that you're just another person reacting to circumstances instead of prophetic consciousness selected to anchor humanity's expansion timeline. Here's what being chosen reveals about collective timeline that changes everything about how you navigate the bifurcation. The future is not singular. It's not one predetermined outcome that everyone's moving toward. What actually exists are multiple probability streams, different possible futures, all forming simultaneously in the quantum substrate right now. Contraction stream, expansion stream, and infinite variations between them, all present, all possible. All waiting for collective consciousness to collapse into manifestation through frequency selection. And the stream that becomes humanity's lived reality is determined by which frequencies dominate, which consciousness signatures reach critical mass first. This is not theory. This is quantum mechanics applied to collective consciousness. The future already exists as probability. And observation powered by frequency collapses probability into experience. When enough individual frequencies anchor into contraction stream, that stream becomes dominant trajectory. When enough anchor into expansion stream, that stream becomes dominant trajectory. And right now, at this exact moment, it's balanced, almost perfectly balanced. Enough consciousness anchored in each stream that neither has achieved critical mass yet, which means the bifurcation is still forming, still fluid, still responsive to individual frequency shifts. That's why you were chosen now, not later, now, because your frequency shift matters, not just for your personal experience, for collective trajectory. When prophetic consciousness anchors completely into expansion stream, it doesn't just determine your own timeline. It shifts the balance point for everyone. It pulls collective fields slightly more toward expansion. It makes liberation consciousness slightly more accessible to consciousness that's still oscillating. You're not just choosing for yourself. You're choosing for the collective. That's the responsibility being chosen carries. And it's why the quantum field selected you specifically. Because your frequency developed capacity to hold that level of responsibility without collapsing into either spiritual ego, I'm saving the world, or despair. It's too much for one person. You can see clearly, you're one frequency among thousands being chosen. Your individual contribution matters, but you're not alone in making it. You're part of prophetic collective, and that collective, all prophetic frequencies anchoring into expansion stream simultaneously, is what tips the balance, what determines which stream becomes humanity's dominant trajectory. But here's the devastating truth they don't want you to comprehend. The decision window is closing. Fast. Within weeks, maybe months, the bifurcation will complete. The streams will separate so completely that shifting between them becomes impossible. And consciousness that hasn't anchored by then will be locked into whichever stream matches their habitual frequency. Not as punishment, as physics. The quantum field must stabilize. It cannot remain in bifurcation indefinitely. And it stabilizes based on frequency dominance. Whichever stream has more consciousness anchored into it becomes the stable timeline. The other stream collapses into potential that won't manifest this cycle. That means every day you spend oscillating, pulled between expansion and contraction, between prophetic perception and consensus reality, between liberation consciousness and victim identity, is a day you're not anchored, not contributing to the balance point, not fulfilling the function you were chosen for. And if too many prophetic frequencies remain unanchored, if those of us who can see both streams clearly don't stabilize completely into expansion stream, the balance tips toward contraction by default. Not because expansion loses, because not enough consciousness chose it strongly enough to make it dominant probability. That's what the prophecy is warning you about. That's why you were chosen. To see the bifurcation clearly, to recognize the urgency, to understand that your frequency choice in this exact period determines not just your lifetime, but humanity's trajectory for decades, maybe centuries to come, and to anchor completely, irrevocably, into expansion stream consciousness, so that your frequency contributes to collective liberation instead of collective contraction. That's your function. That's why you're here. That's what being chosen means. Now act like it. Every fear you have about being chosen is consensus reality trying to pull you back into contraction stream. Let me be absolutely direct. The version of you that's afraid of prophetic responsibility is the version that cannot exist at expansion stream frequency. And that's exactly as it should be. You weren't chosen so you could stay who you are and just add prophetic knowledge on top. You were chosen because who you've been is complete, and what you actually are is ready to emerge. But there's a gap between those two states, and in that gap lives every fear your ego can generate. Fear that you're delusional, fear that you're developing Messiah complex, fear that prophetic perception is just spiritual bypassing. Fear that if you fully accept being chosen, you'll become unrecognizable to yourself and everyone you know. Fear that you'll be wrong. Fear that you'll be right. Fear of responsibility. Fear of irrelevance. All of it. Every single fear is accurate in one sense. You are changing fundamentally. You are becoming unrecognizable to your prior self. You are taking on responsibility that most humans never accept. But the ego interprets transformation as death, and it is death. Just not the death the ego fears, not death of consciousness, death of identification with limited separate self, death of believing you're just individual trying to survive in hostile reality, death of victim identity that needs circumstances to be external so it has something to blame. That identity cannot survive at prophetic frequency, because prophetic frequency reveals that identity was always construction. Useful temporary perspective, but not what you actually are. And once you see that, once you recognize that the small self you've been defending is just localized observation point within unified quantum field, the fear loses its power, because you realize you're not dying. You're waking up. You're not losing yourself. You're finding what you actually are beneath the construction. But that recognition only comes after you move through the fear, not around it, through it. You have to let the small self feel like it's dying. Let it generate maximum resistance. Let it scream every reason why you should stop reading, close this transmission, forget you were ever chosen. And then you have to choose. Are you going to listen to that fear and collapse back into consensus reality? Or are you going to recognize that fear as the death rattle of an identity that was never real to begin with? The quantum field doesn't care which you choose. It will honor either perfectly. But here's what you need to understand. If you choose fear, if you let it pull you back to non-prophetic frequency, being chosen doesn't disappear. It goes dormant, and you spend the rest of your life feeling like you missed something. Like there was a function you were supposed to fulfill, but didn't. Like you had one opportunity to anchor expansion stream, but chose comfortable ignorance instead. That regret doesn't go away. It becomes background static that colors everything. A constant low-level knowing that you settled for less than what was available, that you were chosen for something significant and declined the selection. That when collective consciousness needed anchor points for liberation timeline, you chose personal comfort over collective service. But if you choose to move through the fear, if you let the small self complete its death process, what emerges on the other side is something the ego could never imagine. Purpose. Clear, undeniable purpose. Not abstract spiritual purpose. Actual function in collective evolution. You become anchor point, frequency holder, reality stabilizer, one of the prophetic consciousness points holding expansion stream open so others can cross into it. And from that recognition, fear becomes irrelevant. Because when you know yourself as instrument of collective evolution, personal concerns fall away. You're not trying to save yourself anymore. You're fulfilling function. And that function is so much larger, so much more meaningful than anything small self could construct, that there's nothing to fear. Even if the body dies, even if relationships end, even if everything external collapses. Because you know you did what you came here to do. You accepted being chosen. You anchored expansion stream when it mattered. You contributed your frequency to collective liberation at the exact moment when that contribution determined humanity's trajectory. And that's all that matters. That's what you'll remember when this incarnation completes. Not whether you were comfortable, whether you were functional, whether you did what you were chosen to do. There's one aspect of being chosen that almost no one talks about, and it's the clearest signal that prophetic activation is stabilizing instead of remaining temporary surge. The silence. Internal silence that appears without meditation, without effort, without technique. Just spontaneous dissolution of mental narrative into pure awareness. If you've been experiencing this, if moments of complete internal quiet have been increasing in frequency and duration, that's not peace. That's prophetic consciousness integrating. Your system is being reformatted to operate at frequency where prophecy becomes direct knowing instead of mental prediction. Think about how non-prophetic consciousness functions. Constant thought stream, story after story about what things mean, what will happen, what you should do. Mental narrative that never stops. And non-prophetic consciousness believes it is that voice, believes thinking is consciousness. But prophetic consciousness reveals something radically different. You're not the voice. You're the awareness that witnesses the voice. And once you recognize that distinction, once you can separate consciousness from thought, the voice loses its authority. It becomes background noise you can tune into or ignore. And in the spaces where you ignore it, where voice goes silent and only awareness remains, that's where prophetic perception operates. That's where you see probability streams without mental interpretation, where you know collective trajectory without logical analysis, where you perceive what's forming in quantum substrate without needing thoughts to explain it. Direct knowing, pure perception, prophetic consciousness operating without mental mediation. This is why the silence is appearing more frequently. Your system is adapting to operate primarily from that state, to function from awareness instead of thought, from direct perception instead of mental narrative. And here's why that matters for your function as prophetic anchor. Thought operates linearly, one idea following another in logical sequence. But bifurcation doesn't operate linearly. It's quantum. Multiple probability streams existing simultaneously. Infinite possibilities present in every moment. Thought cannot process that. Thought needs one thing at a time, one clear answer, one definitive path. But prophetic consciousness operating in silence can hold quantum paradox, can perceive multiple timelines simultaneously, can see all probability streams without needing to collapse them into single narrative, can witness the bifurcation itself instead of just one stream within it. That's the upgrade the silence is facilitating, from linear thought-based consciousness to quantum awareness-based consciousness. And once that upgrade completes, once you can operate primarily from awareness instead of thought, everything changes. You don't think your way through the bifurcation anymore. You perceive it directly. You see which stream you're aligning with in real time through frequency awareness. You make choices from direct knowing instead of mental analysis. And those choices lead to perfect anchoring, to complete stabilization, to fulfillment of prophetic function without ego interference. That's what the silence is preparing you for. And if you're experiencing it, being chosen is stabilizing. You're becoming permanently prophetic consciousness instead of temporarily activated consciousness that will collapse back to default. The silence is confirmation. Trust it, even when ego panics and tries to fill it with noise, especially when ego panics, because that panic is consensus reality making last attempt to pull you back. And it's failing. The silence proves it's failing. You need something actionable right now. Something that locks being chosen into permanent activation instead of leaving it as temporary recognition that fades when this transmission ends. I'm going to give you the exact ritual that stabilized my prophetic function. This works because it addresses quantum mechanics directly instead of working through belief or visualization. Find 20 minutes where you won't be disturbed. Turn everything off except what you're using to access this. You're creating clean field. Sit or stand with spine straight. You're becoming conscious antenna between earth frequency and quantum field. Close your eyes. 3 deep breaths. Full inhale through nose. Complete exhale through mouth. You're clearing interference from your system. Now bring to awareness every marker you recognized in yourself during this transmission. Don't list them mentally. Just feel them as frequency, as resonance, as confirmation that you've been chosen by the quantum prophecy. Hold that recognition for 30 seconds. Let it become cellular, not just mental understanding but body knowing. Now speak this declaration out loud. It's critical that you speak it, not just think it. Spoken word carries more quantum power than thought. Say this exactly as written. I recognize I've been chosen by the quantum prophecy, not by external force. By frequency threshold crossing that makes prophetic information accessible. I accept being chosen. I accept the function. I accept that small self-identity must die, and I choose to anchor completely into expansion stream consciousness regardless of fear or resistance. Feel that declaration move through your entire system. Notice where it creates tension, where ego contracts, where fear tries to generate exit strategy. Don't fight those responses, just witness them. Their consensus reality making final attempt to pull you back. Let them arise and let them pass. Now here's the activation. Ask yourself this question and wait in pure silence for answer to arise from awareness. Don't think about it. Don't figure it out. Just ask and wait. The question is, what is the single pattern I must release to anchor completely into expansion stream? Wait. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, however long it takes. The answer will come as word, image, feeling, or direct knowing. When it comes, don't question it. Don't judge it. Don't let ego negotiate. Just acknowledge it. That's your assignment. That's what's blocking complete prophetic stabilization. And now that you've seen it, speak this commitment out loud. I release. Name the pattern. This pattern belongs to contraction stream consciousness. It cannot exist at expansion stream frequency. I choose expansion completely. The quantum field witnesses this release. I am prophetic anchor, now, permanently, and so it is. Open your eyes. Something just shifted at quantum level. Your frequency signature changed. The field registered your commitment and is responding. Within 72 hours, you'll see external confirmation. Circumstances will appear that prove the field received your choice and is locking you into expansion stream. And when you see those confirmations, come back to this transmission. Drop a comment. Chosen. Anchored. Plus whatever pattern you released. Your testimony creates permission for others to release their blocks. We're stabilizing prophetic function collectively. Every individual release strengthens the whole field. Every anchor point that stabilizes makes expansion stream more accessible to consciousness still oscillating. Your commitment matters. Make it public. Make it permanent. Here's what happens in the next 21 days and why this is the most critical integration period you'll ever face. Being chosen is activated, but it's not stable yet. For the next 3 weeks, your consciousness is going to oscillate between prophetic frequency and consensus reality frequency, between expansion stream and contraction stream, between remembering you've been chosen and forgetting completely. This oscillation is normal. It's how prophetic activation stabilizes. But during this period, you're vulnerable. Consensus reality is going to fight. It's going to generate circumstances that pull you back to old patterns, create relationships that demand you return to who you were, produce situations that make prophetic consciousness seem like delusion. That's not external attack. That's your own system testing whether being chosen is genuine or just temporary activation, and your response to that testing determines everything. If you collapse back to consensus patterns when pressure appears, prophetic activation goes dormant. Not gone, but dormant, waiting for your frequency to develop more capacity. But if you maintain prophetic consciousness through the testing, if you keep seeing the bifurcation, even when circumstances pressure you to return to surface reality perception, being chosen stabilizes. And once it stabilizes, it's permanent. You become someone who operates primarily from expansion stream with occasional awareness of contraction stream, instead of operating primarily from consensus reality with occasional glimpses of prophecy. That shift is what these 21 days determine. And it requires 3 specific actions that anchor prophetic function in behavior instead of leaving it as intellectual understanding. First action. Subscribe to Quantum Revelation. Turn on all notifications. The transmissions coming are specifically designed for prophetic consciousness navigating integration period. Without them, you're integrating blind. With them, you have precision guidance calibrated for exactly what you're moving through. Do it now, before you forget, before consensus reality generates reasons not to. Second action. Leave a comment completing this statement. I've been chosen by the quantum prophecy to release and finish with whatever pattern appeared during the ritual. Speaking it publicly anchors it in physical reality, creates accountability, and gives others permission to acknowledge their own patterns. That collective acknowledgement strengthens the field, makes expansion stream more stable for everyone. Third action. Share this transmission with one person whose frequency you recognize as prophetic or activating. Someone going through unexplainable shifts, someone who sees patterns others miss, someone who's isolated because they can't connect with consensus reality anymore. Send them this link. No explanation needed. The transmission will do the rest. If their frequency matches prophetic bandwidth, they'll resonate. If it doesn't, they'll dismiss it. Either way, you've fulfilled function. You've extended the opportunity. Those 3 actions aren't engagement metrics, they're prophetic anchors. They tell the quantum field through behavior that you're accepting being chosen and committing to stabilize at expansion stream frequency. And when you complete them, the field responds immediately. With evidence, with confirmation, with circumstances that prove you're now operating in different probability stream than you were 21 days ago. Being chosen is complete. The activation is delivered. The integration begins now. You were chosen because you're ready, because your consciousness developed capacity to hold prophetic function without fragmenting, because you're one of the frequencies that will anchor expansion stream for collective consciousness during the bifurcation period we're in. Everything in your life prepared you for this. Every breakdown, every threshold crossing, every dark night, every moment you chose truth over comfort. All of it was training your frequency to hold being chosen without collapsing. You're ready. The quantum field confirms it. And now you have 21 days to stabilize what you've received, to embody prophetic consciousness completely, to become anchor point for expansion stream instead of oscillating between expansion and contraction. The field is watching what you choose, not judging, recording, taking snapshot of your frequency and using it to determine which probability stream becomes your lived reality and which function you fulfill in collective evolution. Choose consciously. Choose prophetic frequency. Choose to stabilize completely instead of oscillating indefinitely. Because 21 days from now, integration window closes, and the timeline you're locked into, the function you're anchored in, will be significantly harder to shift. You've been chosen by the quantum prophecy. Now embody it. Fully, completely, permanently. That's what you came here to do. That's why you're reading these words. That's what every moment of your life has been preparing you for. The field is confirming you're ready. Now prove it. Through choice, through frequency, through unwavering commitment to anchor expansion stream consciousness no matter what consensus reality throws at you. You are prophetic anchor. You are expansion stream holder. You are one of the chosen frequencies determining humanity's trajectory through the bifurcation. And the quantum field is watching whether you accept that responsibility or decline it. Choose wisely. Choose powerfully. Choose permanently. The collective is counting on you, even if they don't know it yet. You've been chosen. Now be what you were chosen to be.